We have 3 new card making templates. And what is wonderful about them is that they are a low-cost way to make some really fun interactive cards.
Right. And we've got a new design toolkit, a 3D frame card making template, and a peekaboo card making template.
My personal favorite. Come play with us. And ta-da, here they are.
Yay!
Now, as you said, the design toolkit, this is number 11, very popular.
Made for decorative card flaps, so that's new and unique.
And the 3D frame and the peekaboo. Now, we're going to start with the design toolkit, so we'll scoot the others out of the way. It comes like this in a package, but what you get inside is
this. So it comes on this ball chain, and you get how many? There are 12 shapes on here, but you're getting that on 5 templates. And each one of them has this great edge here. Each one of them has a different style edge that you can use for a card flap, or just for an edge of a card, but it's also got additional shapes that you can trace and cut out.
Before you move that, so what's nice about this is that because they're designed to be card flaps, they've got this kind of panel at the top. So that's what's going to be folded over your card base.
Right. You're not going to fold the template over, but you're going to trace that, trace through there, trace around it, and then you'll have a tab to fold over on your card. And we'll show you that.
And like all of our templates, there are ideas. So we'll get in close so you can see right here. So it's showing this shape, and it's showing some other things that you can do with it. And then you've got multiple designs. So this great big label, you've got a diamond in the middle of it. So that's all of that is just on one little piece.
On one piece, and you've got 5 in this. And if you're familiar with our design toolkits, you know that we're going to have extra embellishments. So we've got these stacking labels, we've got these different edges, and we've also got something like a large heart. So you can trace and cut out hearts to use as a focal or embellishment, a nice big butterfly. And by the way, ideas of how to make a gatefold card right here on the template. That's great. And then that last piece is a heart with a small butterfly on the inside. This is a smaller heart.
You can do some layering.
Sure.
So that's how we begin.
And now, what can we do with it?
What can we do with it? Well, in this case, everything is on one level. So it's not done as a flap. So even though we're calling it, it is a flap is kind of the whole purpose of it. You can use it in a flat way.
Right. So the card is covered actually with black cardstock, just the card front, then with the paper you see behind. And then a piece was traced and cut out using one of these. I'm going to find it. So we go through our card flap designs, and here's the one. It's called the scalloped flap, and that was used to trace and cut out that red dot piece. Then it was actually matted on black cardstock and placed on the card front.
And then that heart was cut out of another paper, and the embellishment that was used was one of our small stamps. Now we call them small stamps because they're 2 inches by 3 inches. Of course, they're silicone, but look how nice and large that is.
Right. Isn't that great?
So you've got that. It's been heat embossed with the red glitter.
The red glitz, I think, embossing powder, and then the little love bug, which comes with the stamps. And also the layering that you're seeing are actually parts of the paper that were cut out and stacked, so that's fun. But there is a different way to do this card. So what you're seeing, in fact, if we open it, we see that that is just a card front. But you can also do it, now this looks very similar, except that I created it on black cardstock. So you can get that same effect, and now you have an actual card flap, so that I traced and cut out that piece directly from the actual cardstock, and then it gets folded over. And so design toolkit for card flaps.
2 options for that. Now here is another one that does use the flap, but this time 2 flaps, so that's nice.
Right.
So you can see this top one, again, we've taken advantage of that nice big heart, and here is another one. So in this case, we used white cardstock, or you could use one of the blank white cards.
Right. You want to make sure that you put your paper on here, you glue your paper in place before you do your tracing, and in this case, this is called the camera flap, and that was placed right along the bottom. So that's nice. And then we used, I think, the scallop flap for the front of the card. So 2 different pieces. And that's just a standard 5" by 6.5" card.
Right.
One edge would cut. Now, if you turn this sideways, that would make a great card this way as well.
Actually, it would, wouldn't it?
Open up that way, move, turn your greetings the other way, and that's a nice look too.
And just so you have an idea of the other things that were used here, this was the 6x6 Rosemary and Thyme paper pack, as well as the card greetings dazzles, which are just so beautiful, easy to use, and gorgeous.
They are.
So that works very nicely. Now we do have another option for you, this time a little different size.
A little different size. It is turned the other direction, but the card flap is still on top. Now you're going to do that in a different way. So I've got the paper here. I've got, I chose, and what's great about these templates is that you can choose any cardstock or any specialty paper that you want to create your cards with.
And that's the perfect benefit of having the templates, any of them.
For this one, I chose a pastel cardstock. It comes in a big set and has a whole bunch of different
20 sheets.
20 sheets of beautiful pastel colors. And I cut 2 pieces. I cut them 5 inches wide. So this is 5 inches by 6.5 inches, so that's my standard card size. And I cut another piece 5 inches wide, and then you can pretty much make this length anything you want. I thought, well, that's about right for a card flap on the front. And then you take, and let me find the correct one, the camera flap. Now we're gonna zoom in a little bit on that template just so I can show you, just so you can see this. There are slots on the right and on the left, and it says optional trim line. Now I'm going to show you what that means. So if I have a piece that's only 5 inches wide, then that's what I'm going to trim. Those are actually going to end up on the edges of that 5-inch wide piece. But I could have put that on a larger piece and used that to trace the edges of where I'm going to trim for this smaller flap. If it was a 6.5-inch card, it would span the length from here to here.
Gotcha.
So now I've got that, and I'm just going to trace that right on there. I'm going to go ahead and set this on. And I made it so that there would be a flap up at the top.
And you want that flap because you want something to fold back.
So I covered it with paper down below. I'm going to put this on the edge there. You trace right here, and then you're going to score there for an attachment tab. And then down at the bottom, you can trace the edge of your card flap.
Of course, the value of doing that after you've got paper on your cardstock is that you're only going to have to cut once, which is much easier, of course.
That's right. So now I've got the bottom. I can go ahead and cut that out, and that'll be my card flap. And then up at the top, I have that tab that I can just fold back. It's been scored. I fold back, and then I just attach it. And I can use Ultra Tape or a double-sided tape on there to the back of that. And there is your card flap front, which ends up looking like so.
So in this case, you've added, this is picket fence papers on the inside. Isn't that just gorgeous? And also on the front with the paper toll. And this is using the coordinating picket fence foil paper toll. We've used this piece.
I love that it has butterflies on there because I used the template to trace and cut out that extra little butterfly, which is found right there. So trace that cut out.
Nice.
Trace and cut that out from some patterned papers. Really simple.
Very pretty. We use some dazzles there. This is, I'm sure, the greetings. And it just makes
I believe that's the inside-outside greetings, which I love because you've always got something for the front and for the inside of your card.
Can't smile and sending warm thoughts. Just really, really sweet. And there is another of the small butterfly done with the picket fence papers.
Which are kind of fun if you only zot these on the middle, which by the way, I put some border dazzles right along the center of that. And then you zot down behind the center only, and then you can lift those wings and you get a little bit of a 3D effect.
Right, and the inking on the edges is very nice too. So, and card makers just want to point out, this is a great example of the way in which a border paper can create a very stunning card.
Right.
And this is just, I think you would agree, lovely. Okay, so this is the Design Toolkit number 11. Now we're going to move into the 3D frame.
Before we do,
okay.
Yeah, I want to show that very, very quickly. If you take a standard card, I thought we had a card for it and I was mistaken. You take a standard card and you trace, let me make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Okay, standard card and another piece of 5" by 6.5" and then you want to trace your card front flap on there, like so. You'll see what I'm getting to when I get done with this. Go ahead and trace your card flap on the front. You're going to trace a line here for what's going to be scored on the other side. So use that, use this, and when you're done, you have 2 pieces. This is the one that I traced and cut out. I scored it here, so that will fold back. Let me turn it around and place it here. And then the card front, I traced and cut out the edge there. So now I can put this flap on the back of that flap, and you have a gatefold card, like so. Had a card that I couldn't find the card that I wanted to show you, so I wanted to make sure that you saw that that's another option.
Nice.
It's just kind of a nice feature.
Very nice.
Okay.
Okay, so Design Toolkit 11, fully covered.
Okay.
Now, the 3D frame. I think this is so much fun. Now, do you want to show, I'll show a project first, okay?
That's a good idea.
Okay, so everything is on the template, and this is what you get. So you're going to get this frame that's on the front. You can see it is a little bit thicker, so this is going to be a card that you're going to want to either hand deliver or tuck into a little box if you're mailing it.
But you see, it creates this frame. It creates this frame that sits up about 1/2 inch, which is kind of a really interesting look, and it's got that box that sits back, and it all is done with this template.
One thing before we get to the template is we do have both this and the Peekaboo in die-cut cards, and what people have in die-cut card kits, yes. And what people have told me is that sometimes they'll kind of test by getting these because they're already die-cut and put it together, and then if they find they want to do more or they want to do them out of different colors, like this one, it's been done out of gray cardstock. Then they go to the template, and the template, of course, is a forever tool.
That you can use over and over again, and everything you need for creating that card, or all the instructions are right there for you. And you have the main card that will be traced, you'll have inside panels, and I want to pull in what I've traced so that you can know. So here's the template. I decided I wanted a green card. So I took the main card, and I like to set that first line right along the edge of my cardstock because it makes my cardstock go a little further. So I traced it right onto there. I said, I'm trying to line it up by looking. There we go. I traced all around the open edges here. I've already got the edge of the cardstock right on those other lines that I would have traced. And then I have lines here and here. I went through all of those, and there's a cross right there, or a little X. And if you pull that away, you can see. So those are all the lines that I've traced. And then you're going to cut out along here, and these are going to be score lines. I'll show you. You also want to trace and cut out 2 of these panels, and it tells you inside front panel, cut 2. So we've got 2 of those. So let me pull in the piece. There we go. So this is the piece that has been traced. It's been cut out along those outer edges, and I scored here and here. And if you look at the template, it also tells you to score here and here. All the way around this X pattern that you see, these are scored lines, but that pattern in the center, that X has to be cut. So I use a retractable penknife. I already did this, but I just want to show you how it was done. You're going to cut the X fully from here to here, but you don't want to cut any of the rest of these lines.
So everything else is a score line.
Right. The only thing that I cut is that X, just like that, and then I turned it this way and cut just like that. The instructions on the template tell you exactly how to do that, so just follow it, step 1, step 2. Very simple to do. And then we're going to start folding our card here and here, because it's going to be a thick card. It's going to be about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, and so here is the card in the inside. Now we want to create that box, and you start by pushing these back. So you've got a mountain fold basically. These large triangles are going to go back like so all the way around.
And this is exactly how it was done on the die-cut card kit.
Right.
You're pulling those up.
And then you pull up the points of those.
Those are valley folds.
So valley folds, bringing those points up towards you.
So that's creating your frame, but then you've got this kind of ugly piece right here. So,
right. So we're going to start by covering it. Now I've got a double stick tape, that'll work fine, and I'm just going to go on those 4 points. You can also use Ultra Tape, you can use glue, this is just quick and easy, and I'm just going to push that piece right down into place. I have to push it through, there we go, through the square, and then it pushes right onto those pieces, go around like that, and there we go. So,
when
what do
you
you think?
open it, yep, that's good. But when you open it, not so pretty. So we have another solution for that.
And for this one, very simply, I'm going to put the tape on here because it's just that much easier, and then place it right on top of the edges of that square.
So then that covers it. So it makes it a very
Nice
tidy
and covered.
solution.
And then go back to your template where it has a paper pattern, which you can trace, cut out, and add any kind of paper you like.
And this paper pattern, like all of ours for the die-cut cards, is designed so that it is smaller and the card itself creates the mat.
Right.
So you don't have to do any extra cutting or measuring.
Exactly.
And
so then you can embellish it. Now, I mean, that makes, there's your frame. You know, you can start adding things like dazzles and whatnot.
And you can, in fact, we would recommend that you do your decorating of this piece before you attach it. It might just be a little bit easier while it's flat rather than being 3D. In this case, papers were used. You can see how beautifully they just accent the corners. We've taken some holographic paper and used it on our Botanical Frames dazzles. Now, this is the larger dazzles, and even being larger, they do a beautiful job of creating the sentiment that was wanting to be shared.
Nice? Now, there are lots of different things you can place in here, but I'm also thinking that just makes a nice little box frame right there that you could put little seashells down in the bottom, a picture of somebody up behind it.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is really a
ideas.
fun thing to do a photograph.
Right.
You're exactly right. Now, the dazzles were backed on the holographic paper, so you can see that flower was done with the pink hearts. Pretty amazing because you get the shininess, but you kind of lose the hearts, which is really kind of nice there.
Right.
The same thing with the green circles.
The green circles. It's a larger pattern, but when you use it on smaller areas, you've just got this nice shine.
And then the butterfly is with the gold ripple.
Absolutely
Isn't that
beautiful.
just stunning?
Right.
So, and again, the pink hearts is for the border. So
I also love the little pink butterfly dazzles on here. They actually come with the Botanical Frames dazzles.
In fact, that's the only way you can get pink ones at this point of time.
You can get lots of other colored butterfly dazzles,
but not pink.
From us.
So you can see that there's a lot that you can do. And I think what you brought up about what are you going to do for your focal, here is another option. Well, actually, what I should do is open the card.
Let's do that.
So we've got the paper, we've got more of the dazzles, and more of the butterflies on the happy everything. Enjoy the moment.
So
very,
fun.
very sweet.
It's an unusual card. It's going to be something special when they get it.
Now here's another option, and isn't that just lovely? It is using the foil paper tool, the Floral Fantasy.
And isn't that, it's gorgeous. It's got that etched look on there that when you're turning it around, it just sort of shines from all different ways. Those butterflies are gorgeous.
Now, one thing to point out, in the foil paper tool, or in any of the paper tool, you get multiple layers, but we generally think of it in terms of, okay, this is number 1, and it's labeled number 1, then this is number 2. But in this case, this was obviously too large. So we just used number 2 and then added the number 3 butterfly and an additional
the
art.
extra artwork. It doesn't even really need to be stacked because it's really so shiny, and it's already back, a 3D effect because it's back into that box, that shadow box.
Isn't that stunning? Now, beautiful. With sympathy is the what was used on this one. It certainly could be happy birthday, thinking of you.
Absolutely. And I think that's from the Tiny Words and Phrases,
yes.
and you get lots of other greetings on there to choose from.
I think you're right. And then on inside, keeping you in my heart. This is nice to do one of the papers on the backing.
Look at that. So you could have hid that and made it, white, and it just sort of blends in, or make a little focal out of it as well.
Very, very pretty.
Nice
just
look.
A little bow on the corner. That
so
works.
Let's see. We've put dazzles in our frame. We've used paper towel and.
You want another option?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Ooh,
this is an embossing folder.
Isn't that beautiful?
And what I love about it is, as the embossing folder has been done, you're seeing kind of a peek into that flower. And this is even cut down a little bit more, but you still get that peak of the flower.
So now, when I look at, let me pull this embossing folder. When I look at that, okay, here's an embossing folder from top to bottom. And a lot of people will use that just the way it is, full like that, never cut into it or everything. I just think this is wonderful in that it was cut down. Even the flower itself had to be cut down. So run this through, get your embossed look, and then cut it down to fit. You can do that with any embossing folder.
It just works really nice. And then it's fun to just do a little bit on the frame, whether it's with pattern paper that has, a design or something, or adding, in this case, more dazzles. But isn't that just, again, I see a shine going on there.
But in this case, it was a bit of a different look. I've got cardstock that has been embossed. And so it has been embossed, and then we're going to treat it or talk about what was done to it, and then cut down to that 3.5 inch. I think it's about 3.5 inches that fits in there just perfectly. I want to say that for the card that you had, white cardstock was used, and then it was inked with Wisteria ink to get the look. But you can just as well use a cardstock that's already the color that you like.
This is out of the pastel cardstock pack, I think.
I believe so. And then Versamark was added, and I'm not going to do this, but I'm just going to sort of mimic it. Versamark was added to the card. You just swipe it across the top. It's going to get the top edges, the embossed area that sits up. And then you're going to use Wow Magical Mauve embossing glitter, sprinkle it on there. It'll stick to those raised areas, and let's look at that one more time. Once you heat set it with a heat gun, that's what you have. So you can do things like that with an embossing. Do something with an embossing folder. Get the effect that you want. Ink it, whatever. Cut it down and place it in your frame.
Isn't that stunning? And Dream is what was used here inside. A great big Cherish the Moment. And again, another pattern paper backing that frame. So just a very special card. And these will stand up. As you can see, that will stand up on a counter or a desk, whatever you like. Okay, now we're going to go into our third and last. This is a peekaboo. And this is so much fun. Again, we have it in the die-cut card pack. In this case, there are 3 cards with 3 envelopes.
Right. And if you look at I love the example on the front here shows some stamping that is done. You can stamp, color in, you can add all sorts of greetings behind that peekaboo.
We'll show you a couple of ideas. So again, you have all of the pieces that are necessary. You have the card base, you have the 2 flaps that are going to reveal the surprise.
And that's really all.
And there's a center frame panel that you also need. So let me show you the finished card. So here it is. And are you looking? Okay, here we go. Peekaboo. Wow. Isn't that fun?
Gorgeous.
Very fun.
And such a nice, bright pop of color in the center when you open that up. It's just so unique.
This little guy got underneath. How did that happen? Okay. Cover for me, Gail, while I fix this.
So the template itself, now I've got it on brown so you can't see it. You're going to be tracing and cutting out that large piece, like we said. For this card was done on black, so I've got brown, and I know you're not going to be able to see that, so I've already got the pieces traced and cut out. So here it is, traced and cut out the main base.
I need to redeem myself. Okay, here we go. So there it is. Then if you open it, There you've got the reveal.
Now, what's happening, or what happened a second ago, is when you open this, if you fully open it up all the way wide, then those are going to sort of pop out from grace of each other.
They might.
They're sort of, they sort of disconnect. They don't come out from under this panel, but you just, there you go. Open it and close it. And one of the things we want to point out is that we use a double layer of foam tape, and that helps the mechanism to slide ever so gently.
There you go.
So beautiful.
Okay, now you can go.
So the piece, you cut out your main card. That's what we're calling it. Your main card. I also have score lines here and here. Now we have a half opening here, a half opening there. Since they are scored on the left and the right, I'm going to go ahead and fold those over. And those are going to create the opening in the center. So you've got that large opening in the center. Now all you have to do is place in the flaps and the center panel frame. So I already traced and cut out the flaps, and there are 2 of them. You're going to use 2 flaps. They look like this. And I've already got Ultra Tape right next to that fold. It's scored. It's ready to fold over,
now,
just like so.
Yeah, just so that you can see that it is next to the fold, but toward the outside edge.
Right. It's going to be on the tab. It's not going to be on the flap.
Right.
And that's actually shown very well and talked about on the Peekaboo card, exactly where to place, on the template, where to place your Ultra Tape. So we've got 2 of these, and they're going to end up like so. Let me show you how to place these. The easiest way I know to attach these to your card. The important thing, before I pull the cover off that tape, is that when you're done, you want this card, here, I want to place something back here so you can see it. I'm just using the white so that you can see what I'm doing. There we go. The important thing is to place it so that this piece is centered in that opening, above and below. Now see, if I go too low, you're going to see the top of the flap. Go too high. You have to make sure that it's centered within there.
And eyeballing it is just fine.
Right. To do that, I've got my flap. I'm removing the Ultra Tape. And I want that edge to be right on the fold. So I'm going to place that edge, oh boy, I hope you can see this. I'm going to place that edge right along the fold, just like so. And when all I have to do is push this down and it'll stick, but I'm going to move this back and forth to make sure that I'm centering it beneath that opening. And
then you can feel that it's right next to the fold.
Right, and you can see it. Now I can see that I've centered the lines above and below are even, and I push that down, so now that's attached right there, and that's where we want it attached. So when it folds back, it'll fold back toward the center of the card. It's very hard to see on the dark cardstock. That was a bad choice. So now
just going to do the same
thing. The Ultra Tape on the other side. I remove it. That's right. I'm going to place this one right on that card fold, and this time all I have to do is align it with this flap. Just make sure that it's aligned with that flap up the top edge. I'm making sure that they're in alignment so that they'll work evenly. Then I just fold over the right side. It sticks on there. Now that flap is on this part. Fold that back, and they're ready to interlink like so.
And it doesn't make any difference if you have this on top or that on the bottom. It's just as long as they're interlinked.
It works either way.
Yeah.
The next piece that I have is that center panel frame. It's cut out like this. You're going to cut out the center like so. And I have on the back foam tape. These are double layers of foam tape, and they are only a 1/4 inch wide. So I actually you have to cut down foam tape till it's only a 1/4 inch wide. And you want to keep it about a 1/4 inch away from that opening edge so it doesn't interfere with those flaps. If I put it this way, you'll see the flaps have to slide in between.
Right.
So you have to make sure that's only a 1/4 inch wide. So I've got it up at the top. I've got it right below the window, and I've got it all the way at the bottom. I remove all of those. I center those over my card and over the flaps. I'm just being very careful that I am aligning the top and bottom edges and to the left and right. And that makes it so that those flaps can slide in and out easily. There you go.
Yeah, just
that
like
was
that.
really all it took. A lot of explanation and really not very much effort.
And you did that on brown. This one was done on black, as you can see. And again, that's how it works. So
I wanted to mention, before I put all that panel in place, I mean, that's the construction of the card, but you're going to want to put things in place before you put that front panel on. And you see, I can't put it in there really now. Unless
you slide it.
Slide it out. Well, it would be kind of difficult. That's an important thing. You want to put whatever you're going to put behind that window, you want to get that in place before you put your card together, so that you have something behind that peekaboo
now,
window.
Now, this is using the Bohemian Dreams Dazzles, and that's where you're seeing the black and that gold edge, as you can see here and down here. Love this light.
Right.
And
the Dazzles were backed with those specialty papers.
They were, with more holographic, with the red fireworks and the purple circles. And the nice thing about specialty paper like the holographic is you end up using little bits and pieces, but wow, does it give a stunning look. And then that's what you had on the inside. Do you have your piece?
I did something a little different, but we're going to talk first about that. Individual pieces of this were backed on the separate papers, and then the whole thing was placed on purple, on the purple circles. I did something a little different just to show that there's a different way of doing it. I did back a couple of areas on that specialty paper. I actually punched out a couple of circles from the red fireworks and placed it behind those flowers. Placed the entire piece on gold ripple and colored the rest in with Spectrum Noir.
Oh, excellent idea.
I could have done the whole thing just with Spectrum Noir if I wanted to. I kind of started out with one and then say, hey, that's another easy way of doing it. And they do work on those specialty papers on the lighter colors.
So let me open this so you can see just the two looks. You bring that in. Yeah, there you go.
Two different looks.
Very, very fun.
And that's why I chose brown. This went with that brown so well.
Now, our second option is this. And, when I see this, it looks like a card front. I'd almost expect to open it as you normally would. But surprise, here is how this is going to open. Ta-da. And then, ta-da!
So live each day to its fullest.
You get that pop of color in here, and very fun to use the paper tool.
The colorist paper tool. And I liked that the actual the colorist papers were left black and white. That's such a fun look, and allowing the paper tool to do all the color talking for you.
So in this case, this is the paper tool. This is not foil paper tool like some of the others. This is paper tool.
Right.
And you can see that really nice big grouping was placed over on the left hand.
And those are numbered. You just pop them out. You stack them with foam tape so they give you a little lift. I also love that this was put actually over the window a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were sort of hooked over that gatefold.
Yes, and this is the colorist Dazzles. So this is happiness, and then as we open it, you're going to see that reveal. And as you said, the paper tool is just on this middle panel. Right. And then how fun to see the color just changing.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Nice way to use the Dazzles at the top and bottom frame.
So remember, this piece was just a piece of paper with the Dazzles on it, and that was placed on the center where we knew the window was going to be before the flaps and the card front were placed. So.
Right. And you can see why that paper pack is called Colorist, can't you? So there you go. Tuck under.
Lots of different ways.
Right.
Now, I believe, let's see. No, I'm not going to, never mind.
Okay. So what we have are some very unique cards, but at a very, very affordable price.
Right.
So our 3D frame, our
peekaboo card, and then our design toolkit.
Right. So all three of them, you will have so much fun, and you will also have the recipient saying, "How did you do that? Oh, you are so creative." And you just smile and say, "Thank you." See you next week.